appreciate you honoring the invite. Before we start, we have two things we wanted to say. Number one, we wanted to once again extend our heartfelt condolences to the family of Honorable Peter Kenneth following the demise of his mom. We know the burial is going on right now. And number two, we had a major incident, a fire incident in Katukera in Kibra today. We want to also just pass our pole to all those who have been affected by that fire. Having said that, we have invited you this afternoon to basically give our party position on why the Punguza Mizigo bill that has been proposed by the Third Way Alliance falls short of constitutional review expectations. It is a very detailed statement, and I beg that you be patient with us, and after we are done, we will be able to take questions on many matters that require clarification. So earlier this month, the IEBC announced that a proposed constitutional amendment bill sponsored by the Third Way Alliance Kenya had met and surpassed the threshold of 1 million signatures required to initiate an amendment of the Constitution by popular initiative as envisaged under Article 257 of the Constitution of Kenya. From the onset, we note the complete departure by the IEBC from the precedent it set in signature verification for a similar process with the Okoa Kenya Bill presented by the Code Coalition. It seems for the IEBC, that the IEBC will apply different standards for the same exercise depending on who is presenting the signatures. Indeed, grave concerns remain on whether the Third Way Alliance initiative met the required threshold, given that the IEBC still does not have a database of signatures against which it can conduct a verification. The Election Observer Group ELOG has in fact pointed out that an analysis of the signatures presented by the Third Way Alliance reveals mass duplication and raises doubts on the authenticity of those signatures. Given the serious implications of the IEBC's decision, we join ELOG in calling for the IEBC to publish all the signatures that were presented so that Kenyans can confirm their authenticity. It is also critical to point out that constitution making or amendment must always be people-driven and a result of the widest possible consultations with Kenyans of all walks of life, which Third Way Alliance did not bother to attempt. A proposal of a constitutional amendment through popular initiative has the option under Article 257 to put forth general suggestions in the first instance, whereupon the public and other stakeholders will have opportunity to input, to refine and enrich those proposals. Third Way chose to forego this particular stage and went straight to prepare a bill with their proposals, which bill was the basis for collection of the signatures. It is critical to understand that the bill, having been the basis of the collection of signatures, must either be passed or rejected as is, because the law does not envisage any amendments thereto. To be clear, no amendments, additions or subtractions can be made to the Punguza Mizigo bill at this stage. The option for Kenyans is to accept or reject it wholesomely. We cannot fail to point out that the motivation of this initiative appears to have been to scuttle the Building Bridges initiative, which the sponsor of the bill attempted to do through court actions, and this is a matter of public record. Having said that, we have taken time to study the bill and have found it problematic as it undermines the spirit of the very constitution it seeks to amend. It is full of contradictions and inconsistencies and would result in a chaotic constitutional order while not even living to its promise of lessening the burden on the mwananchi. We wish to specifically comment on the following proposals as contained in the bill. Number one, on the lightening of the burden, which is in the name of the bill, Punguza Mizigo. The bill claims to be targeting expenditure sites that burden the Kenyan public but does not even mention the areas of real concern. The biggest cause of burden to the Kenyan taxpayer is debt both domestic and foreign, which currently stands at 5.3 trillion shillings, which is 68.9% of our GDP. In the current financial year 2019-2020, the country will spend 1.1 trillion, which is 61% of annual revenue, in servicing our debt. It would have been helpful to propose mechanisms to control runaway borrowing, such as a requirement for parliamentary approval of all foreign borrowing. The debt is followed by corruption, where it is estimated that the country loses more than 600 billion shillings annually, which is about 10% of the annual budget or 30% of annual revenue collected through corruption. There is also estimated 200 billion lost due to uncollected revenues. The public wage bill has been cited as the biggest financial challenge facing the country. While it is a matter of concern, it is used more as a scarecrow to shield looting of public resources. Kenya's public wage bill as a ratio to GDP is 8.3 against a global average of 7.5%. Salaries, allowances and wages of legislators and parliamentary staff account for less than 30% of the 43.8 billion allocated in the 2019-2020 financial year, or shillings 13 billion, or 0.04% of the budget. While it is important to manage the wage bill, including for legislators, we need to tackle the problem holistically. Number 2, on reversing of women's gains. The bill, as proposed by Aukot'S, seeks to delete Articles 100A and 177B, which promote representation of women in Parliament and county assemblies. It also seeks to abolish nomination in the National Assembly, County Assembly and in the Senate. While it seeks to address the same in the National Assembly by proposing one woman per county, there are no mechanisms to realize the two-thirds gender rule in the county assemblies and the Senate. Going by the current status, these houses would be almost 100% male dominated. This is a step backwards because from the current 97 women currently in Parliament, under Aukot'S bill, this number drops to no more than 50. Number 3, on the proposals touching on Parliament, the reconfiguration of Parliament is the most confusing and retrogressive. The following issues stick out. A, it is proposed to abolish the 290 constituencies and instead have the 47 counties turned into constituencies. Having parliamentary representation at county level goes against the dictum of no taxation without representation. Long-standing grievances of domination by larger tribes and clans in the past is what informed Kenyans' desire to review the constituencies in the 2010 Constitution. These fears were well captured in the CKRC report and the report of the Committee of Experts, and also well articulated during the Bomas process. Counties that are not mono-ethnic will see a return to long-forgotten tensions. Many small communities that currently have representation stand to be disenfranchised. For instance, we have the Sabaot in Bungoma, which is a Bukusu-dominated county. We have the Kurias and Luyas in Migori, which is a Luo-dominated county. We have the Tesos in Busia, which is also another Luya-dominated county. Kipsigis in Narok, which is a Ma-dominated county. The Tavetas in Taita Taveta, which is a Taita-dominated county. And the Mbeere in Embu County. And also the Banyore in Vihiga, which is a Maragoli-dominated county, to name but a few. B, the proposal to designate the Senate as upper house is not accompanied by concomitant redefining of the functions and powers of Senate and National Assembly. Without amendment of Article 95, the National Assembly will retain all the authority of enacting legislation, while the Senate will remain a participant as provided for under Article 96 of the Constitution. All the functions of appropriation of funds, oversight of state organs and approval of declarations of war and extension of state of emergency remain intact within the National Assembly under Article 95. It is therefore not enough to just state that the Senate shall be the upper house. C, the bill proposes to give the Senate veto powers over the decisions of the National Assembly. This power resides currently with the President, and since Aukot'S bill does not likewise amend Article 115 that gives the President power to refer bills back to the National Assembly, this proposal is a recipe for chaos. The justification for having the Senate to defend the interest of counties is also negated by making counties the electoral districts for the National Assembly. The proposal to reduce membership of the National Assembly and Senate to 94 and 47 respectively, whilst failing to amend Article 121A and amending Article 121B to raise the quorum of the House from 15 to 24, would paralyze operations of these houses due to frequent lack of quorum. A quorum of 50 in a house of 94 members, which is about 53%, and 24 in a house of 47, that is in the case of the Senate, which is 51%, does not take into account other official functions of members of parliament that at times keep members out of the chambers, including committee work, official international travel, and ill health, amongst other things. The proposal to have senators and members of the National Assembly elected by the same constituency, which is the county. You remember the bill is saying now that the 47 counties will be the constituencies. The proposal to have senators and members of the National Assembly elected by the same constituency makes no sense. What would be the rationale of making senators superior to the National Assembly members, yet they are elected by the same constituency? In its proposals, Article 96(5), the bill purports to give the Senate the powers to establish whether a bill from the National Assembly contravenes the Constitution or goes against public interest. This is a clear usurpation of the powers of the High Court under Article 165(3)(d). So in the absence of an amendment, corresponding amendment to Article 165 that gives powers of interpreting whether a statute is contrary to the Constitution to the High Court, then this is another recipe for chaos. By proposing the deletion of Article 90, the bill further strikes a blow against the gains already made by women, youth, persons with disability, and marginalized communities. Further, political parties that are the recognized entities for realization of the rights under Article 90 have been done away with in that proposal. Whereas the bill proposes to retain members nominated by special interest groups, there is no mention of the mechanism through which these unknown, unidentifiable, and undefined groups would submit their nominees for this purpose. It is another recipe for chaos. Fourthly, the bill proposes to abolish constituencies, but purports to retain the wards as is. This is a cheeky gimmick to trick county assemblies into supporting the bill. It is important to note that the bill assigns the IEBC the responsibility of delimiting of wards, which basically means that IEBC will then have the power to reduce the number of wards should the amendments sail through. If Nairobi County were to become one constituency, for instance, as proposed by Aukot'S, with only 2 members of parliament, our MCAs in Nairobi can rest assured there will be no justification for retaining the 85 wards. On the county executive, the bill seeks to abolish the position of deputy governor without a convincing justification. If it is on the account of cost, elevating one member of the CEC to perform the functions of principal assistant to the governor would result in the same cost but with reduced accountability, since the said CEC member would serve at the pleasure of the governor. It is paradoxical that this bill seeks to abolish the position of deputy governor but leaves that of deputy president, yet their establishments were premised on the same logic. It is important to note that the annual budget of the office of the deputy president alone equals the total allocation of devolved funds to 2 counties, so that if you wanted to save costs, the office of the deputy president should have been the target. It is also a fact that having a deputy governor removes the need to hold costly by-elections in the event of the demise of a sitting governor, like happened in the county of Nyeri. The smooth takeover from a deceased governor to a deputy governor saves costs. What Third Way proposes will increase costs by necessitating by-elections in such instances. On corruption, corruption is one of the serious causes of the financial burden the Kenyan taxpayer is carrying. Yet the proposals in the bill do not address prevention and appropriate punishment for corruption. The bill makes wild, unworkable and half-wit proposals to make queries in audit reports the basis of prosecutions. While audit findings give investigative authorities vital starting points for investigating crimes or for them to launch their inquiries, they cannot be the basis of prosecution. The bill proposes to require the Auditor General to forward audits to the DPP and DCI within 5 days of completion of audit, forgetting that the audit report is not an answer, but it is a query. Further, by failing to concomitantly amend Article 226(2), which requires the Auditor General to submit reports only to the people's representatives, that is the National and County Assemblies, the bill creates another avenue for confusion and chaos. The proposal to try corruption suspects within 30 days is another recipe for setting corruption suspects free. Corruption webs are normally so complex that concluding trials within 30 days is no mean feat. There are a myriad of factors beyond human control that result in delays for trials. This is not to mention the potential for mischief, because all a suspect would need to do is to raise as many objections and adjournments as possible for the 30 days to lapse and then call or declare a mistrial. In our view, to deal with runaway corruption, the Constitution needs to be amended to achieve the following matters, which the Punguza Mizigo Bill does not address. Number one, there's a need to review Articles 225 to 227 to tighten control of public finances. Number two, we need to outlaw conflict of interest where public servants do business with the state, as was proposed in the 2017 NASA Presidential Manifesto. C, we need to permanently bar persons convicted of economic crimes from ever serving in public service or public office or doing business with government agencies. D, we need to strengthen public procurement and asset disposal laws. E, we need to make the annual declaration of wealth public. F, we need to provide necessary independence for agencies charged with investigating and prosecuting economic crimes. G, we need to reward integrity. And lastly, we need to protect whistleblowers. Further, the amendments proposed to Article 229 take away the accountability of the Auditor General to Parliament, contrary to Article 226, and thus takes away the Office of Auditor General's independence. On constitutional commissions, the bill proposes to delete Article 251, removing the mechanism for appointment of members of independent commissions without even providing for an alternative way of hiring those members of those commissions. The proposed deletion of Article 250, Sub-Article 7 as well, which makes remuneration of commissioners a charge on the consolidated fund, takes away the independence of the commissions, because once the salaries of independent commissioners are left to the whims of the executive, there is potential for abuse. Besides, it has been established that some commissions that serve on a part-time basis are more costly than those who serve on a permanent basis. Some are known to schedule even 4 meetings in a day each, ensuring that they draw as much allowances as they can. Number 8, on constitutional crisis, the proposals seek to amend selected articles of the Constitution without considering the real risk to run counter to existing ones, some of which we have pointed out in this statement. This creates a crisis in the eventual implementation, as no article of the Constitution is superior to another, save for Article 2. We want to also point out what other things this bill does not address. The bill fails to address a number of pertinent issues that Kenyans have identified previously. These include, but are not limited to, the following. Number 1, addressing the issue of inclusivity. Number 2, the issue of citizenship by birth, the structure of the executive, conflict of interest where public servants trade with the state, electoral injustice, which is the jam for election-related conflicts, independence of investigative organs such as the DCI and IPOA and the ODPP, and then strengthening of Chapter 6 of the Constitution. We want to say, however, that there are a few areas of concurrence, and we want to address those ones now. We concur with the bill fully or partially with regard to the following few areas. Number one, there's a need for rationalization of Parliament, but we only disagree on the numbers. Number two, the 7-year non-renewable presidential term, but only in the context of a parliamentary system of governance. Of course, we have championed the increasing of equitable allocation to counties. However, while the bill proposes this at 35%, we are of the view that it should be increased to 45%, which will include 5% that will descend directly to the wards for the Ward Development Fund. Number four, making every Kenyan who acquires an identity card an automatic voter. Those are the only things we see that we agree with in this bill. So in conclusion, from the foregoing, it is clear that some few sound proposals have been sandwiched with contradictory, outrageous, and unsound words. The Constitution is a wholesome document, and its amendment must be approached in a wholesome manner. The quest for a perfect constitutional dispensation is not a race to see who gets there first. It must be a product of the most extensive, consultative, and people-driven process. Since the bill proposed by the Third Way Alliance cannot be amended, and in light of the weaknesses that we have laid out above, Kenyans are called upon to reject it and await the report of a Building Bridges initiative, where they will have a chance to debate the proposals before they are translated into a constitutional amendment bill, if any. That is the end of the statement.
Do you have questions?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Please say your name and the media house you represent, please.
Yeah, my name is Kenna from People Daily. You mentioned the issue of the number of legislators in Parliament. Just wanted to know the party's position. Is it overrepresented? And if it is, what is the number you would recommend to tackle this? And does that also tie to the number of counties? Then the second question, the issue of what the public views as the gluttony of legislators. I don't know what's the position of the party in terms of the greed by MPs to pay themselves excessively.
We have said in the statement that we do not agree with Aukot'S that the country is overrepresented, that we have overrepresentation, because the current 290 constituencies that we have originated from a certain process. And we have pointed out to you that we had communities who existed in counties or locations that were, dominated by one tribe or one clan. And the feeling during the constitutional review process prior to the Bomas process was that for us to enhance representation, we needed to give opportunity or representation to as many voices as possible. So it is not correct for our court to state that the country is overrepresented. So that is our position, and we believe that if these proposals are adopted, where you have 17 constituencies, for instance in Nairobi, for you to end up with Nairobi as a single constituency with only 2 members of parliament, you are reducing representation as opposed to increasing representation. On the issue of cost, we feel that the debate has been unnecessarily or unfairly skewed to look at salaries of members of parliament as the biggest player on the heavy burden that is borne by Kenyans. We have said in the statement that in fact our public debt is both domestic and foreign debt is the biggest problem that we have to address. We have to address issues of corruption and wastage in government. So really, while this thing or the bill is disguised as saving costs for Kenyans, it does not address the real issues that have resulted in a heavy burden on Kenyans.
Yeah. There's the perception that the decision to reject it is because it's taking away the time from the BBI initiative, and maybe some of those suggestions may have not been as genuine. Is this the case?
Perhaps, Shemtai, that perception is only yours, because we have taken time. I think since I became Secretary General, this is the longest, most detailed statement we have ever had to put out. And I want to invite you to look at the specific issues that we have raised in the bill, the contradictions that will result in the Constitution, where you are amending one article of the Constitution, forgetting that there is another article of the Constitution that talks about the same thing. For instance, when you say that the Senate will veto bills that originate from the National Assembly, and you forget that that veto power currently resides in the President, you need a concomitant amendment of that article of the Constitution, which is why we are saying these proposals were not even well thought out. They did not look at the Constitution as a wholesome document. They just wanted to throw in amendments here and there, and we are saying it will result in chaos and confusion in our constitutional order. So it has nothing to do with shine. I think as a party we have enough shine, and we are not bothered with other people shining as well. It doesn't take our light away. Yes.
The BBA also said that they're not foreseeing any proposals to lead to a constitutional amendment. Why is it, as a party, the conclusion of the report will lead to constitutional amendment?
I don't remember the BBI saying that. Do you have that statement with you?
Yes.
Because I also listened to what they said, and they said that as of now they have not determined whether a constitutional amendment is going to be necessary, because they are still listening to the views of Kenyans. Those views will be collected, and if there is views, for instance, Wanjiku will tell you that the money that we receive here is not enough to build all the roads, then the experts, the lawyers, will tell you how do we translate what Wanjiku wants into legal or constitutional text. So if it results, for instance, if Wanjiku says they want more money to build roads into Kana, the solution could be that you increase the revenue allocation to the counties. How do you do that? Yet the revenue allocation is set in the Constitution. It requires a constitutional amendment. So you are misquoting the BBI team. Yeah.
Maybe one last question.
Any other question? Thank you very much.
But don't listen something.
Okay. Asanteni sana. Kwanza tunashukuru kwa sababu mmefika hapa. Tumetoa msimamo wetu kama chama kuhusu mapendekezo ambayo yameletwa na chama cha Third Way Alliance. Kwa maoni yetu, haya mawazo ambayo yamewekwa mbele na Third Way Alliance, kwanza hayajafikiriwa vizuri ama vyema ili kugundua ni vipi ukibadilisha kipengee kimoja cha katiba kitaguza kipengee kingine cha katiba. Jambo la pili ni kwamba hata baada ya wao kutuhakikishia kwamba mswada huu unaafikia kupunguza mzigo wa Kenya, kwa maoni yetu hakuna mzigo ambao umepunguzwa na haya mapendekezo ambayo yametolewa hapa. Tumesema kwamba jambo la ubadilishaji wa katiba sio mbio za sakafuni kuonyesha ni nani mwenye mbio sana, ama ni yupi wa kwanza atakuwa wa kwanza kufika pale kwenye debe. Hii ni process ambayo inahitaji kwamba Wakenya watembee pamoja, kuwe na ushauriano kama ambao tunaona ukiendelea katika ile initiative ya BBI, ili Wakenya wote wapate nafasi na fursa ya kutoa maoni yao kuhusu mapendekezo ambayo yanaweza kupelekea maisha yetu kuwa bora. Kuna mambo mengi ambayo mswada huu haujagusia na tumeyaweka wazi katika hii ripoti yetu. Tutawaalika nyinyi wenyewe muisome. Unajua Kiswahili wakati mwingine haswa kwa vipengee vya sheria kinakuwa kigumu, lakini nyinyi mna taaluma hiyo, mtaweza kuona ni kwa nini tunapinga mswada huu. Asanteni sana. Kuna jambo lingine? Nakumbushwa tu hapa na mwenzangu kwamba kuna mambo fulani ambayo katiba hii yetu ilikuwa tayari imetupa. Tumepiga hatua kubwa sana kama taifa kuhakikisha kwamba kuna uwakilishaji wa kina mama, vijana na walemavu katika mabunge yetu yote. Mswada huu wa Aukot'S unapunguza idadi ya kina mama ambao wako katika bunge kutoka 97 walioko kwa sasa hadi chini ya 50, na kwa maoni yetu hiyo ni kuturudisha nyuma. Kile ambacho kinahitajika ni sisi kama taifa tuongezee nafasi kina mama katika mabunge yetu, na mapendekezo haya kuna njia nyingi ambayo unaweza kuwafikia malengo hayo. Kuna ule mfumo ambayo unaitwa proportionate representation, ambao labda ukiwekwa pale iwe kwamba kila chama kinatoa orodha ya wabunge wake, kila mmoja akiwa mwanamke, yule anayemfuata anakuwa mwanaume, na tunaweza kufikia lengo la kuwa na 50% ya kina mama katika mabunge yote mawili, iwapo tutalifuatilia swala hili.